Welcome to the Smart Talk series, the show for professionals who want strategies, tips, and real talk about all things PR, marketing, and social media. Your host is Melissa Vela-Williamson, an award-winning, accredited, and nationally recognized PR pro and communication thought leader. And now your host, Melissa Vela-Williamson.
Hello and welcome to the Smart Talk series. I'm Melissa Vela-Williamson. This season, our focus is on Communication Trailblazers. During this special expanded series, we'll look 360 degrees around what it means to be a communication trailblazer and how pioneering work has evolved our professions throughout the years. I'm going to share the pros and cons of being an industry trailblazer and introduce you to some trailblazers in today's PR and marketing fields. If you're new to the Smart Talk series, I kick off each season on my own and then bring in more industry experts to discuss these topics with. Check out season 1, 2, and 3 for lots of Smart Talk discussions on topics like crisis communications, communicating through turbulent times, social responsibility, multicultural marketing, and more. Let's jump in and get started with this season's focus, Communication Trailblazers. What does it mean to be a trailblazer? To be honest, I had to look that up myself. I actually struggled with how to title this series. We all know words matter so much, especially in PR. Should it be communication pioneers or communication trailblazers? During my research, I found out that trailblazer was a more modern and smarter way to express what I was trying to describe. To me, a trailblazer is someone who makes a path for future generations to follow. They blaze a trail or clear the brush to create a smoother path as a way forward for themselves and others. I interpret pioneer as someone who may be the first to do something, but what they conquered may not bring others along the journey. For example, my own lived experience as a first-generation university graduate made me an unintentional pioneer in many ways for my family. As I figured out how to navigate financial aid and college applications and finding a major and getting the first job, I often felt out on my own. And the truth was, it really was a solo mission at the beginning. But as we get older and have more life experiences and hopefully grow in empathy and understanding for others, I think many of us can transition from those solo pioneers we started as into real trailblazers. And that's what I feel like I'm called to be today. Someone who's figured out how to get a job done and excel in public relations. And now as a business owner, I can turn around and share that path with others. Why wouldn't I want it to be a smoother path for other people? I've certainly seen professionals hoard information and hoard opportunities and even their connections. I even had a colleague recently tell me that the work they did with male mentors was often more positive because the female mentors they were working with were less likely to give them connections and information as quickly. Well, while that may not be my experience or yours, I think we've all experienced times where someone taught us their life lessons and made our lives so much easier and our journey so much smoother. And that's what I want to talk about this season. A trailblazer is someone who, to be very symbolic about it, took their torch, blazed that brush down, and made a clear path through some dark and murky woods. I'm happy now to do that for others at this point in my career and from here on out. After almost 2 decades in this industry, where I feel like every year counts for like 10 years compared to some other less stressful industries, it's time for me to share some of my hard-learned lessons. And that is the heart and the real calling of why I wrote my own public relations book, Smart Talk, Public Relations Essentials All Pros Should Know. I didn't have the money to do this on my own. And I didn't have the big backing of a publishing agency or an underwriter to help fund this new adventure. Publishers are not traditionally looking to publish books from pros like me. And by me, I mean independent practitioners or micro business owners or pros of color or PR experts, not working at a large firm or a large corporation. Any way you slice it, we don't often promote, publish, or even pass the mic over to some of the diverse, smaller heroes in our industries. In the US specifically, it seems like racial tensions and prejudice are at the forefront of some communities. The fact that we still discriminate against each other based on skin color or the cultural practices we align with is pretty ridiculous. To help shift that paradigm, I do what's possible to influence change in my circles. So for me, this book is a gift. My way for me to cross over any boundaries to help any type of professional that wants to work in public relations do so successfully. You would think an industry built on goodwill and relationships would have a lot of diverse pros working in it. But the reality is, if you look up the stats, only about 10% of PR practitioners in the US report to be Latino. And about half of those pros are at any kind of leadership level. And in a profession where relationships are the currency and cornerstone of our work, empowering all kinds of pros to enter and succeed in the field should be what we focus on. But I'm not seeing those conversations across the nation in this industry. And I don't see a clear understanding from others of how practicing diversity, equity, and inclusion naturally aligns with practicing good public relations, and how practicing DEI and PR together will equal what is socially responsible today and tomorrow. After years of trying to find that clarity and giving lots of talks of my own to inspire and enlighten pros, I felt called to share all my advice and some new lessons in this book. What inspired me to take this leap is surprising, and sometimes inspiration comes when we don't expect it. It was the midst of what I call the scariest part of the pandemic, probably somewhere between Q2 and Q3 of 2020. Wasn't that year a blur? I remember sitting in church, but in the lobby, because I was too scared to actually sit in the auditorium with all the people. COVID numbers were high at that time, and vaccines were not out, but my kids wanted to attend in-person church. They had missed out on the end of their kindergarten and 5th grade years, and it had been a long time since they had been around some friends. So we went to church, the kids went to the kids section, and I sat in the lobby. My plan was to stream the church service from my phone in the lobby because I was too scared, like I said, to go in the auditorium. I felt really down, and I started praying, asking God to support me and give me encouragement and some guidance on how I could be a good PR business owner. How could I help my clients with giving them the right answers and the right messaging and the right actions when things were changing so quickly, almost minute by minute then? And how was I going to keep my spirits up as a working mother and a leader when everyone around me was really struggling? I was struggling too. So I prayed and I asked for some guidance. And believe it or not, what came out of that was the outline for this book. I'm not kidding. I opened up my notes app on my phone and just started writing the words that were coming to me. I realized when I looked down, this is a book outline. What am I going to do with that? Now, I had a creative writing background, so writing for me wasn't unusual or new. And there were certainly times where I felt like I had a muse or something of inspiration that was really pushing me to write. But this was really different. I had stopped writing poetry years ago and now spent most of my time writing as a PR professional. I guess I was in another tough moment, and when I asked for clarity, God said, "This is the way." So it's with all sincerity, I'll tell you that this book was placed on my heart, and I have been absolutely called and led to bring it to life. This has been one of the hardest journeys I've ever been on, and certainly a period of uncomfortable growth. And in some ways, a very lonely experience. And that's what makes me think about trailblazers. Who are the people who felt like this, or felt like they should answer a calling to do something new and make a way for others to follow their lead? A lot of the things we do in our career and even in our personal life are inspired by our own wants and needs. But this book really feels like it's for others. And I think some of the things that inspire us to do something big, we think about them in terms of serving others as well. I guess that's what it means to be blazing a trail. There's a whole lot of uncertainty. You certainly scrape up your knees and legs along the way, but you do feel like there's something heroic about it. It's courageous to try something you never have before, or work on something outside of your normal course of business. I can't name the number of times I've been asked throughout my career, why would you do that? Why would you add that to your plate? For you, it may be, why would you join that board, or sign up to volunteer, or sign up to speak? So many of our colleagues just don't. I know I'm not wired that way. The challenges I take on have felt like my own because while people could cheer me on, they couldn't always do the work. But something was pushing me to give it a try. Well, why should we take on any additional pressures, especially if we're in public relations, marketing, social media, or advertising? Our work is pressure-filled enough. I think that's the question I get asked most often. And sometimes people don't even ask it. I can just see it in their eyes. Why are you stressing yourself out like that? Something my mom would say. Maybe you can relate. Well, my answer is, sometimes I see an opportunity, I just have to take it because others before me couldn't. Or sometimes there's an opportunity that I'm able to create for others. While I'm listening to my intuition and that feels right, taking chances doesn't always feel good. It's that feeling where you're just moving towards something and you can't even see it. You don't know where you're going, but you feel like you need to go for it. It's kind of like Elsa in Frozen, too, when she was moving towards that enticing siren call. She had no idea what it was, but she kept hearing it, and it was causing her to journey forward until she figured out what the call was about, what her purpose was. And that's kind of, for me, what this has felt like to write this book. And every time I try something new. If I take on the adventure, it can be fun, but it's often maddening. If I ignore that call, it's stressful on its own. But if I answer it, there's usually some kind of growth or a great story or new friends I make in the end. For trailblazers, a call for change won't leave them alone. If that sounds like you might as well just go figure out what lies ahead. I have grown a lot since my first wobbly years as an excited but ill-equipped PR coordinator. And statistically, I'm not supposed to be writing this book. Latino authors make up only 4% of the publishing industry, which is a big reason why I decided to do this myself. But here I am. I'm gonna be an author. I guess that's what being a trailblazer is. Making the journey even when it's never or rarely done. A strong work ethic, willingness to learn, and curious nature can take you far. I started as that PR coordinator with very little academic PR knowledge, no portfolio of experience in the field, and no friends or family I'd known who'd done it. Now I'm an accredited and award-winning PR strategist who runs her own agency, hosts this podcast, and writes for the leading PR association in the nation. What I achieved in PR was not passed down through generations of family experience or through a pre-established network. I've learned to ask for help and do the most with what I have and creatively solve problems. Now I feel equipped to invest in supporting the diversification and advancement of this field. That is my new calling, and I hope what I share in my book inspires you to pay it forward and trailblaze too. Many pros of color, or those from diverse backgrounds, don't know someone like them who works in public relations. It's time we increase our representation. I want to use this book like a guidebook and an invitation for all types of pros and students and former journalists to join in and walk this path that's hopefully smoother than my bumpy first years in the industry. Keep an eye out for the release of Smart Talk, the book, this fall by following the podcast and our MVW Communication social media channels. I hear my team may even make me join TikTok. I don't know about that. That's what they say. But sharing PR and communication tips, that's a whole other adventure to tackle. And I hope you'll join me online by listening to the rest of this season, where we talk with other trailblazers on what inspired them, how they brought about change into their communication areas, and why we should all consider shaking things up a bit. Thanks to our listeners for joining me for today's episode. We love unpacking communication topics to elevate our industry practice. If you'd like to go deeper with me, we can work together. You can work with me as a coach, a speaker, a consultant, or work with MVW Communications for PR and strategic communication planning services. Contact us at mvw360.com to learn more and connect. And if you enter your email at mvw360.com/book, you'll get updates on the release of my book, opportunities for giveaways, and more. You'll be the first to know every milestone we make. And as always, think smart and communicate smart. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Smart Talk series. If you learned something or enjoyed our conversation, share it on social media or send to a friend. To learn more about this and other communication topics, visit mvw360.com. That's mvw360.com.